And I'm telling you right now, if they're not thinking about this seriously right now, it's going to be chaos, bar none. Like if I were to make a crazy prediction on this show,
Hmm.
first time, or check this out,
Okay.
exclusive. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah. That's
Do we
hilarious.
want to for sure go to hell? Or do we want a
Hmm.
chance of not going to hell? Is that if people get more time because they were disrupted by the technology and they're not able to fill their time up with something, we will get chaos and we will get violence. If you can't agree that this company has fundamentally changed the course of history, you are simply not paying attention.
Amidst the chaos of politics and pillocks, Tesla quietly powers ahead, delivering top-tier EVs, energy storage, full self-driving tech, semis, AI, and soon-to-be robots. Will humanity ever give credit to the man, the company, and the employees who are objectively doing more than anyone else to shape a better future? Or are we all doomed to a cesspit of haters, confused admirers, and those who'd sooner watch the world burn? With me to discuss this and more Tesla-centric topics, it's only Farzad, isn't it? Look, there he is. How are you, Farzad?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me on your show. It's been awesome watching your rise and sort of the journey you've been on. You've been at this for a minute, and I just want to wish you great success. And I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
Cool. Happy to have you. So, Farzad, having spent 4 years working at Tesla and now reflecting on it through your YouTube channel, what's the one thing you wish more people understood about the company's mission and how it's shaping the future?
That's a kind of a loaded question because if I think about my time at the company, so this was feels like so it's actually almost 4 years from then. So I left in 21 and it's 2025. So I'm 4 years removed. And the one thing that I remember very distinctively about that time was just how passionate everybody was at that company about what they were doing, how bought in they were into the mission of advancing the world to a sustainable future. Just being around extremely talented people, working as hard as they could to make as hard as they could to make that dream become a reality was the most inspiring thing I've ever been around, to be completely honest. And I think the thing that very few people, I think, still to this day understand, especially if you think about Tesla's art as of late, it's really entering the mainstream, legit entering the mainstream through very chaotic means, but it's
Yeah.
entering the mainstream. I think people sort of from the outside looking in, they might see, oh, cool company that has a lot of cool cars. Like, oh my God, they're so fast and they drive themselves. Oh, he might do a robot. That's kind of cool. Oh, they got solar panels, right? But I think the underlying thing that still to this day, very few people understand is that this thing was built from scratch. There was no electric vehicle supply chain to speak of. There was no, autonomous car technology using vision only to speak of, which will dramatically advance the avenue of sustainable transport because now you're making each car 5 times more usable because now it drives itself and it happens to be electric. So think about how much carbon we take out of the air just from having that sort of technology on top of it, right? The
Yeah.
amount of work and the talent at the company that has been put in for the last sort of 2 decades now, it feels like actually close to 2 decades now. It's all a culmination of really talented people working as hard as they can to make the technology work, and that technology is what's going to drive us towards, no pun intended, drive us towards a better, cleaner future. Even with all this politics noise, even with Elon siding, with the right side of the political spectrum here in the United States, the dream remains. I would arguably say significantly more alive now than it has in the past, because now
Yeah.
most people are now aware of what this thing is, either positively or negatively. People are now aware of what Tesla is
Yeah.
from a product perspective, and its success is directly linked to a better future. As chaotic as it feels now, it's extremely hopeful. Anybody you talk to, if you say the word Elon Musk or the name Elon Musk, or you say the word Tesla, chances are 80 to 95% of those people will know exactly what you're talking about from something, right? Like they'll be, oh yeah, that's the thing, right? Oh yeah, they do
Yeah.
this. Or again, might be positive or negative, but the entering of mindshare is the almost like the last step before, okay, now what are you doing for me from like a price perspective? What are you doing for me from a product perspective? And then you have this sort of giant moment that Tesla goes from startup to niche to rich person to start and get some more hype, and now it's like mainstream. And mainstream is the holy grail to make significant change in the future. So It's
Yeah.
that's my positive take on it. You could have a negative take on it, but I think it's hard to ignore. What Tesla has going for is the technology. Is and as long as the technology is good, the rest will work out. And boy, do they have the technology good.
Well, yeah, that's what we're most looking forward to this year, isn't it? Tesla's mission remains to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Let's touch on the Cybercab and how that fits in with the mission. In my view, cost-effective, ultra-safe, affordable, efficient Cybercab that can run on sustainable energy forever. It's a huge win for everyone as it offers an end to car ownership for those who can't, won't, or don't want to drive. But it all hinges on self-driving, doesn't it? And, I've had a bit of experience with FSD in Vegas, but you've had first-hand experience with Tesla's FSD for years now. So how confident are you that Tesla have actually cracked it? And do you think they're on track to providing robotaxis this year in Texas and California as planned?
Yeah, I'm very confident. I think for people that have followed the technology firsthand, like actually having on-hand experience with the cars, I think it became very obvious once FSD 12 dropped in the United States. I think beforehand, people very close to the story had confidence that it would happen. Definitely through this entire journey, I was 99.9% confident that it will happen at some point. And as the progress of the different models came through, once they moved to a neural net stack with 12, and now we're seeing 13 come through and all that good stuff, right? I think once that got in front of people's radar and they actually were able to experience it, I saw an entire vibe shift, even within the Tesla community, that went from maybe like split half and half, it's going to happen soon, it's not going to happen soon, to 80, 95, 99% being like, yeah, this is obviously going to happen. And you just need some I don't know, an hour behind the steering wheel of a Tesla to be like, okay, yeah, they have this figured out. Of course, the things that they haven't figured out, it has nothing to do with the hardware. It's just decisions. It's like, okay, I'm in this situation in this sort of intersection, and there's no lane markings, and this guy's being an idiot, and then there's somebody on their bike about to ram into me, and the car's like, oh, I'm not really sure what to do, right? That's a corner case that's handled by decision making, not by, oh my God, I can't see what's happening. And the way to solve that is through the AI brain, which is the thing that Tesla has separated itself from every other player. Their entire stack is AI. It's AI from watching what's coming into the actual outputs, and that's what's going to set the company apart from everybody else from a decision-making perspective when you're on the road, and it's going to allow it to sort of pick up and drop, right? So I'm very confident this year we'll get some sort of trial in the United States, most likely Austin, which is where I'm at, which would be so sick to see. I mean, the second they turn on that sucker, I'll be the first one trying to get that thing on camera so I can bring it to my audience, right? I'm very confident. And again, for somebody like me who's been behind the wheel of a self-driving Tesla, it's like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious it's coming. Yeah. I'm very excited for it. And I think a lot of people will be shocked at just how, let me sort of draw a parallel, because I've been thinking about this a lot, okay? You guys have Uber in the UK, right? I'm assuming Uber is quite popular up there. So Uber has different tiers, at least in the States. They have Uber X. I actually took an Uber to come into the where I'm working out of today. They have Uber X, they have Comfort, and then they have this tier called Premier. And Premier is like, the driver's super nice, they'll leave you alone, the car's super nice, super comfortable, okay? But it costs like 2 to 3 times more than the Uber X, which is the lower tier. Here it might cost me $35 to come to Capital Factory, which is where I'm at today. Or you can call Premier and it costs $100, okay? What the Cybercab Robotaxi network does with Tesla is that you get premier level comfort, convenience at a lower cost than the Uber X, than the cheaper tier, right? This is what people don't understand. When you are getting picked up by a Cybercab or a Tesla or whatever, where you are the only person in there, and the quality of the interior is Model 3 or better, okay, you will automatically have a luxurious experience. And then because you don't have the driver, and because the Tesla vehicle is going to be so cheap to manufacture, especially in comparison to, say, a Waymo or a car with a driver in it, all of a sudden you've broken the equation of getting from point A to point B, right? And so like that I finally I was trying to figure out what is the best way to convey this sort of breakthrough to the public. And I think that's the best way to look at it, is if you're familiar with Uber, think of it as an Uber Premier experience at a cheaper price than the Uber X price per month.
Yeah,
and that's going to break it wide open.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of partly excited for Like my brain's always just based in the future. I don't know why, it just always has been since I've been a kid. I
Same.
just think of what's possible, and I just consider the car ownership model just, for those who don't want to drive, or for young kids who don't want to go through the rigmarole of passing the test and all the money and waste that goes with car ownership, and you could just summon a car to your door. I just think for that, when that becomes the norm for older teenagers and stuff, and you just realize you just don't need a car anymore. You don't need a car sat on your driveway for 95% of the time that you're not going to use. You don't need to maintain it, insure it, tax it, get it crashed, fix it, whatever. Feels like for probably our generation who are used to driving cars, that there might be something missing there, in the lovely car ownership that we have. But I think for future generations, they're just really looking back going, why would you need to buy one? But again, that's just my head in the future.
And I will tell you, yeah, and I will tell you, and I don't know if this is, I'm sure this is very different where you're from in the UK, is that car ownership in the United States is very much, it feels like a right. It feels like, you're not an American unless you have 2 cars in your driveway at least, and you're driving, 12, 15, 20,000 miles a year. Or you're not an American if you don't have a car in your driveway that you might use sometimes, or you're not an American if you don't have a pickup truck that you're never going to use the bed for. It's very American, and the reason why is because there's so many miles in between things. Okay, I have a 35-mile drive down to this from where I live, each way, one way, and that's completely normal. That is completely normal in the United States.
Yeah.
You said wow. I'm like, yeah, in the UK, you're probably like, what are you going on vacation? You going on holiday?
That's it. Yeah,
where are you going?
We took a trip last week just up to the Derbyshire Dales, a beautiful scenic place, and it's an hour and a half away. That's quite a big journey for us. It's like, okay, let's get prepared for the car.
That's how much. That's
silly.
My dad drives that one way to work every day.
Yeah,
an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah. That's the interesting thing about the culture of accepting self-driving cars in the United States. I think it will take a while, even if the sort of formula from a price perspective is a no-brainer. It will make it a no-brainer in like every city in the United States, every major city at least. Your Austins, your Chicagos, your New Yorks, your LAs, your SFs, right? All these places will adopt the technology no-brainer. Unfortunately, about the United States, one of the big issues we've had in the last 34 years is with the exit of manufacturing to the globalization of trade and stuff. We've had a lot of the middle of the country just get completely ravaged, and we have these desolate communities that used to be thriving are now sort of like, what the hell is going on, right? Self-driving technology could actually be a huge game changer there, because you're removing the friction of having to own a car to go to work, which is it's a huge thing for a lot of Americans to even get a job. It's like, I can't afford to pay gas and I can't afford to have a car. But when you have a self-driving platform of sorts that makes the cost per mile half or a third of what it used to be, all of a sudden these communities open up, and human capital can now be engaged to go to work. And so that's another transformation we'll see. But the huge thing is the trust factor. The population has to trust that the technology is not going to drive them somewhere. It's like, oh, I can't control the car. What if it takes me to this place and I get mugged? Like, that's a thing that Americans think about. And I'm not going to say it's invalid. Everybody has every right to, it's like, could it get hacked? Sure. Anything can get hacked. Could that happen? Sure. How likely is it? Probably almost impossible, right? But it's a concern. So I think in places like the US, the adoption will be slower, but I think as long as the regulation catches up in Europe, where self-driving technology is allowed, I mean, there's no better place for self-driving technology to flourish. And, you talk about, European countries, at least Western European countries, from what I know, the quality of life and clean air and having walkable cities and low disruptions, low noise pollution is a big deal for a lot of communities, because everybody's so tightly packed together, right? The culture is different. So I think Europe, if the regulation catches up and they are able to allow self-driving technology to come in, boy, will you guys benefit from that. I think it's going to transform places like the UK, which are already a beautiful part of the world with y'all's rolling hills and sort of the countryside. And your cities like London, you have these major metro areas. Once you introduce self-driving vehicles that are silent and clean, and they don't take up any parking space, and they're always available and any second's notice, man, you've just taken the European experience to a whole different level. And It's super exciting. How can you not be excited about this? Like, that's the thing
Yeah,
that's crazy. How
exactly.
can you not be excited about this? You know?
Well, I'll pivot to a quick story then. When I was on stage at Fully Charged a while ago, I shared my excitement about just that. I'd just come in from watching the Starship get caught for the first time, Starship Booster get caught, and we watched it on the Tesla Owners Club TV outside
Mm,
through the Starlink terminal, and then I rushed on stage because I was part of a talk, and I was just gushing about the We Robot event, which happened a few days before. And the lady next to me, after I said how amazing the Cybercab was and the future of all this, we don't need to own cars, or some people won't need to in the future. It's safe. It'll be affordable. She said, well, I'll be standing in front of any autonomous cars because they'll be dangerous. She thinks, cars, the roads should be just for cyclists and pedestrians. I was like, oh,
mm.
goodness me. I was like, what are you going to do? Throw tomato soup on it next? I'm like, yeah, she was a university professor telling me this. And I was so disappointed to realize
Yeah,
that was a lot of people's opinions. I was just like, oh, it's going to be so dangerous. It's just going to kill everyone all the time. It's like, oh, we've
yeah.
got a long way to go. And people are going to need to see this on roads. They're going to need to see how safe it is, try it for themselves. And, I guess just
Well,
like
I
getting
think,
into a, sorry, go on.
yeah. No, no, you're sorry for interrupting, but I think the equation that will change minds there, Will, is like once they realize that the fare they'll pay for the self-driving car will be similar to public transportation, and it's private by
Yeah.
themselves. You don't think that's gonna like of course, like that if that teacher
Yeah.
doesn't change their mind by then, it's like she's lost. Like, good
Yeah.
luck.
That's it.
Have fun
Yeah.
walking everywhere, which is fine. It's her right. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's such a big deal. It's that equation will break a lot of people's sort of like echo chamber of like it's unsafe. It's like, well, there's a price
Mm.
at some point. You're gonna be like, oh, maybe I'll try it. And that
Yeah,
might
yeah.
change minds.
A point that Brian White brought up when I spoke to him about that, actually, that very subject, is like you've got to get people with empathy and understanding. If you've got someone who's disabled or blind, and they could get into a cybercab and go into the middle of London, it's like, is my crazed university professor going to be doing the same? It's like, no, this would open up
Right.
an opportunity for so many different people to travel around the world, in safety and security. And I think the empathetical view is quite an important one as well. So
I
yeah,
agree.
cool. Thanks for all your thoughts of the Cybercab. Let's move on to robots. The robots are coming has been your ex banner since you began. Is this a wake up call of techno optimism or a subtle warning to your viewers?
Both. So my idea behind the robots are coming was what's the most neutral way that I can create awareness about the inevitable? And it's like the robots are coming.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And what's interesting about that whole thing is like, okay, some people will view it as, yes, the robots are coming, let's go. And some people are like, oh, God, I'm kind of scared. Am I going to be put out of a job,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. I should almost change it to the robots are here, honestly, because it's like we're at the point now where it's become very obvious that it's an unstoppable train. The economics of robotics, autonomous systems are far too great for them to not be adopted. The only limiting factor has been the technology. Have we had the technology to have a truly useful autonomous robot, either on wheels or in a humanoid factor, whatever you want, embodied AI, right? Whatever you want to call it. The limiting factor has been the brain. The brain
Mm.
was the biggest one. The being able to perceive the real world in a way that you can do useful tasks. And that has changed with the car. We can see it with Tesla's self-driving suite. And now that it's changed with the car, by default, it means that it has also changed for the embodied humanoid, whatever version that we'll see. Because the key problem again was manipulating real world space. When you can do that with a brain, with an artificial brain that can mimic tasks that a human would do, the question becomes, okay, what are the systems that we need to actually make the movements? And that just becomes an actuator question. It's like, okay, so now that we know that the brain can figure out what to do, if it had the outputs, it's actuators, right? And then so
Mm.
actuators become a just an engineering problem, right? There's no, I mean, there's going to need to be breakthroughs. There's going to need to be like some pretty significant steps forward. It's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody can design an incredibly efficient actuator. I bet you Tesla's going to have the best one.
Yeah.
Tesla's probably vertically integrating, which I believe they openly said they're going to vertically integrate their actuator manufacturing, their hand manufacturing, because these are the things that will truly separate them from everybody else, which will help them execute against that. And then the question after that becomes, okay, so now that you've got that figured out, what's the next step? Is like, okay, now we need great battery density so that we can do those tasks for as long as possible before we have to charge, because anytime you have downtime, that is time away from doing the task, right? So if you're doing 1 hour of work and charging for 2 hours, the math can still work, but it's not nearly as good as doing the work for 4 hours and charging for half an hour, or doing the work for 6 hours and charging for half an hour, or doing the work for 16 hours or charging for an hour. That the equation will change as battery technology gets better and better. So my initial math that I did on the sort of like, what is the effective dollars per hour that you would pay for, say, the first run of the humanoid robots that would come out of, let's say, Tesla's factory at 1 million units run rate, and it charges for an hour for every 4 hours of work, let's say, and it can work. I believe the math I did was about at 80% of the speed of a regular human. The effective hourly rate is like $3.40 per hour, which is better than the average rate out of China. So it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
once you have that, and you're not limited by the creation of humans, which is like people have to get busy and make humans, you just have a factory to make robots. At that point, labor breaks. The labor equation breaks. And so the follow-on question becomes, okay, if a robot can do anything we can, sometime in the future, which is definitely coming, we just don't know exactly when, but as it continues to come, what do we do? Right? That's the question.
Hmm.
That becomes
That's a
the
massive
premise.
question.
So,
Then, yeah.
gigantic.
I could probably help with that, because I've been spending my entire life trying to figure out what to do in my life, and just having
So
time.
what do you think? What do you think will happen there? Like, I would love to hear your philosophy around that.
Yeah, well, I think people are going to have a real crisis of meaning. And yeah, I mean, I've accidentally sort of ended up in that situation in my life because I've been a musician my whole life. So that's given me time to sort of fill. And it turns out when you do have time and you think you might just want to relax all day, you don't want to. You just want to fill your time doing something meaningful. So we always found, me and my wife, we've just always had a sort of different sort of career life, if you like, just from being musicians. And then we find other things to do. And I think when COVID hit, I think this was the moment for me when I realized how severe it is when you've had your job taken from you, because all of our weddings got cancelled. We just couldn't work. We couldn't do anything. And I spent 2 years just sort of procrastinating, wondering, well, what would I want to do if I had the opportunity to do anything in the world? And, let's say money wasn't an object, which it is. It would be fantastic to perhaps do a YouTube channel like this and just like delve into it. But I think that's it. People are going to need to discover what they really want to do with life, not just how to get money and survive. Like, what would you really want to do? Because in this scenario in the future with robots, we'd assume that we've got a more of an age of abundance, perhaps. Maybe there's universal basic income. Finding meaning, I think, in the future is going to be, it really will be a very difficult challenge for a lot of people. But I guess the benefit is, if you are taken care of, if you have enough money to survive, you've got all your food and everything you need, then it's great for people who are creative, perhaps myself and you, or lots of other people who are self-employed or just choose their own path. But it's clear that there's lots of people who are just more than happy, going to work every day, being told what to do, and then they go home, and then that's their life, and they're more than happy doing that. For me, it's been nothing but a rush to run away from that. But for other people, it's just fine. So it is a bit of a concern, isn't it? You're wondering what this scenario would be with humanoid robots.
I think the common theme, though, from all the people that I've talked to that are sort of in this sort of very blessed situation that both you and I are in, which is like, we're able to, even with great difficulty sometimes, we're able to pursue what we want to do in some ways. I think the common thread I've found is that, well, there was a period of time, the keyword time, where people were able to sit down and be like, okay, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? Like, what should I do this? Should I take the risk or not take the risk? But it was time. And that's one thing that very few people have, is time. Because for the second they wake up, they got to deal with a chaotic household. Sometimes they don't want to be in that household, right? So because of whatever variables, the chaotic household, then they got to go to a job that they don't want to really be at because they have to have to pay the bills. Then they come home to that same chaotic household. And by the time they have an hour or two to self-reflect, their brain is so fried and they're so like beat down by life that it's like, okay, what should I do? And so I think what this robotics AI revolution is going to bring forth, it's going to start slow, and it will get, I think, more and more of the population will get hit by this, is that people's time will open up, right? Either through choice or through disruption. The one that has me really afraid is that if people get more time because they were disrupted by the technology and they're not able to fill their time up with something, we will get chaos and we will get violence. For sure, like 1,000, and this has happened a million times over, in the course of human history. Is if you put people in a situation, especially at a large scale, where they feel like they cannot exit despair, we're going to have a gigantic problem on our hands. And so the question becomes, in this new world, what are governments doing and what are corporations doing to ensure that that doesn't become the case, right? And that's where my nervousness comes in, because it's like the forcing function for this technology to sort of accumulate around a few players is really, really strong. The reason why is only a few players have the capital to hoard the autonomous resources. Like who has an ability to buy 1 million robots more? Is it me, or is it Coca-Cola, or is it Tesla, or is it blah, right? And if somebody's going to own a giant majority of the means of production, what does that mean for the rest of us? What does that mean, right? These are the questions that really stress me out, to be completely honest. Now, I think what's kind of encouraging in a weird way, and I think some people will disagree with me here, but we do have a core group of very talented engineers at the top of this game. Your Elon Musks, your Mark Andreessens, your Mark Zuckerbergs, your Jeff Bezos, whatever you want to think of them. Like there's a lot not to like about a lot of those people, I'm sure. But at least we're getting people that know where this is going, actually talking with and actively being part of government discussions. This has to happen. Now, the population needs to hold these people accountable. The broader citizenry has to be like, yo, Elon, yo, Trump, yo, Jeff, yo, whatever. If you can't guarantee to us that this next revolution in technology will make our lives better, you will have hell to pay. And I'm telling you right now, if they're not thinking about this seriously right now, it's going to be chaos, bar none. Right.
Well,
so
this is a bit of a problem, isn't it? Because so I'm just going to jump in about the AI problem, because you know, obviously Musk and others have been pointing this out for such a long time. We need some sort of guardrails in place to stop this technology getting in the hands of the wrong people, or just some guardrails about how it's going to affect life on Earth. I mean, this could go horribly wrong, but obviously there was no grown-ups in the room in the former White House, was there? That actually took seriously the AI danger. It doesn't seem to track well, does it, to imagine that the government is going to come up with some good answers here, because they never seem to be on the ball, do they, enough?
This is why I'm a little bit more optimistic about the time we're in. Not a little bit, I'm a lot more optimistic, because that sort of tech bro, like you and I are viewed as tech bros in the United States, right? Or wherever else, we're tech bros. But now the tech bros are becoming much more politically active. And by tech bros becoming much more politically active, there's at least going to be some sort of conversation that says, hey, this is coming. This is coming. Like, what are we doing to ensure that we're setting up the society to be good? As long as they have the society's best interest in mind. You know, the counter arguments will be, well, these people are going to hoard everything to themselves. They're already billionaires. They know how to do that already. So they're going to continue doing that. That's all they know how to do. I'm like, okay, if that's your argument, that's your argument. But would you rather have people that know what they're doing being part of the discussion, or would you rather have the status quo, which didn't even know how Facebook worked? Remember that hearing with Mark? Okay, do we want to for sure go to hell, or do we want a chance of not going to hell? And I'll take the chance of not going to hell.
I certainly do. I certainly do feel like you're on the right path now. You've got some grown-ups in the room who are discussing the serious issues, which is quite nice. Just hearing David Sachs talk about crypto and things like that the other day on the All In Pod. Just really nice. Let's assume that the robots will be your friends, and it'll be a nice world for us. So,
fingers crossed.
Let me turn to I've got the title Bubbles, Fanboys and Haters. So I was talking to Ryan Cowan last night for a couple of hours. I'm not sure if you know him, Ryan's Model Y. Really nice guy, does some amazing Tesla content, and just very polite and lovely on his videos. He's nothing like me, just rude and obnoxious. But we were just talking, and we realized that we're just on the same journey. You know, we just accidentally got a Tesla. You know, we just drove it. We're like, whoa, this is amazing. Let's tell all of our friends and family how great it is. And, you know, I've said before, I sort of, you know, fell in love with the car and I wanted to tell the world, but the world didn't want to hear it. It could not care less. So, you know, from all of my friends and family that, you know, haven't bought a Tesla, you know, despite my excitement for it. But that's it, though, isn't it? I think all of us people in the Tesla sphere, just we're so excited about Tesla and what it stands for and what it's going to do for the future, how it's going to help progress humanity. I mean, if you took Tesla away, who are you excited by to transform the world in all the ways, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, it's multifaceted. I mean, I think ultimately the Tesla is extremely exciting because they're the most exciting company in the world. Like probably first and second is SpaceX and Tesla. So they're keep having this competition for the most exciting company in the world, in my opinion. Right. I think ultimately it's the technology and it's the vehicles and it's the products that just inspire. Like the second you get behind this, like especially back in the day in your 2014, 2015, 2016, when you didn't really have anything else to compare the Model S and the Model X to, they are just mind-blowing pieces of technology. They're just, as soon as somebody sits in the car, they're like, what the is this? What is this? And then you learn more about like, okay, wow, who's running this company? You're like, oh, it's a one of one, super genius, once in a lifetime psychopath that's running this company. That's kind of crazy, right? So there's so much excitement about the story. And I think what, you know, you're talking about bubbles, sort of lovers and haters, or the top, whatever topic it was. But I think what people, you know, like let's say the haters or the people that view the story on a very negative light, shout out haters in the comment section. What what they get fundamentally wrong about why people like you and I love Tesla, it's the product, it's the technology. It's like you can sit and you can tell that there's been a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of game-breaking things that have gone into creating this thing from scratch. It happens to be a public company where somebody like myself can be like, holy shit, this thing is freaking insane. I'm gonna go all in, because how can this thing not win, right? And then you have a leader that is an extremely interesting person in the arc of history. Like him or hate him, Elon Musk will be remembered forever. Forever. That's just what's going to happen. You can either hate him or like him for that. It's going to happen. So all these things come together to just form this incredible story, right? And for somebody like me who likes to view things from a glass half full perspective, I view myself as quite an optimistic person. I want the future to be great. I can't help but look at everything that's happening from a positive perspective most of the time, because I can always come back to what is the thing that's happening here? There's a company that is changing the course of human history. They are. That is what has happened. They've accelerated the advent of sustainable transport, and they're doing so with game-breaking technology. You cannot deny this. I don't care how much you hate Elon. I don't care how much you hate Tesla. I don't care how much you think they're an Enron or a fraud. If you can't agree that this company has fundamentally changed the course of history, you are simply not paying attention, or you're being willfully ignorant. That's what's happening, right? And of course, what's the old thing saying? Like, if you don't have haters, right, you're not doing something right. Like, you need haters. Yeah. If you're going to be performing at a high level, you're going to get haters. That's just what happens. Yeah, well, and the more haters you get, the better.
Well, that's good to hear. I've got to say, I've got a lot of haters. It kind of reminds me at the moment, because I'm getting attacked on YouTube comments and everywhere now. Just sort of
like and subscribe. Even if you're a hater, like and subscribe so you can hate more.
Yeah,
come on.
But it kind of reminds me of Ricky Gervais's joke. Did you ever hear him talk about the what was it, about guitar lessons? Did you hear this?
Oh, maybe
he's
like this
when he was talking about being on Twitter, and he'd just get endlessly attacked by people he didn't know from around the world. And he's like, it's like walking to the town square and you see an advert for a guitar lesson, and then you get your phone out and you call it and go, but I don't want guitar lessons. That's exactly That's exactly
That's
as
exactly
I
what's happening.
feel. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's like me
Ma-
wading into a football appreciation society, knowing nothing about football, and just going, just attacking it with
Yeah.
declaring my hate for it. It's so
Think about
stupid.
think about the mechanics of that, right? So somebody had to have clicked on a video that they knew they were not going to like, and they went out of their way to post something about them not liking this thing, right?
Yeah,
Like, okay, like listen, I actually have a lot of empathy, honestly, because I think for somebody to be in that mind state to do that, there's probably something's like chaotic life, like something's happening that day. Like, okay, listen, like I like to think that a giant percentage of the population are good people. Even the people that go out of their way to write hate comments, it's just for some reason on that day, something's not. It's like some sort of energy or thing is happening in their life that's leading them to do that. Because if let's say stuff was going good that day for an individual, like I don't think there would be any room for somebody to go out of their way to watch something they don't like and write something about why they don't like it, like something,
yeah,
and so that's the way I view it. I think that we're all human, we're all going to be impacted by negative comments to a certain extent. I think once I realized the mechanics of actually posting like hate comments or whatever, like would I rather be me or would I rather be them in that specific situation? I would much rather be me, right? And
yeah.
so
That's
that's
nice.
what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I often just send them a love heart back, and just wish them
yeah.
well. 'Cause I just
They're
think
people.
how it's
They're
my
people having
surprise
a
though is
rough
like
day.
there is so
Yeah.
much content on YouTube. There is, more porn than you could watch in a billion lifetimes. Why are you on my video? Haven't you got anything better to do than watch
Because
my
you're doing
video? You've
something
come
right,
to
Will. You're doing
Yeah, I
something
guess so.
right.
You've come to a channel that's called Tesla Jigsaw. I can't make it more obvious that I talk about Tesla.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just going through the motions of learning how to deal with all this. But this is perfect opportunity to move into talking about the Tesla community then, because this to me is just golden. We've got there's a mass of Tesla events around the world. There's global light shows. Shout out to Simon Pollock of X Light Shows. Does a tremendous job of bringing the community together everywhere around the world. There's Tesla owner clubs absolutely everywhere. There's meetups going on. There's such positive vibes. And I know that every Tesla owner would be happy to take anyone for a ride just to put a smile on their face. So, I think we are just part of an incredible community like no other. So what's the most mind-blowing thing the Tesla community has done that's made you proud to be a part of the community?
Everybody's so freaking nice.
Hmm.
That's like the thing that always stands out to me. Everybody's so nice. The Tesla community, I think it's a magnet for people who have really kind souls. You think about like what is the overarching story of Tesla truly? It's to advance the advent of sustainable transport. It's like and think about within what context this story was built. It was on the back of the financial crisis in the United States. Okay.
Hmm.
It was back in the company IPO'd in 2010 or 2011, and it amassed this sort of like OG community that started with the company, right? Which really was a thing that's like, wow, it almost felt like I can't believe this company is real. That was the vibe that I got. I can't believe this company is real. It's so counterculture, and the leader is so different. He feels so real. He's like he just sits down and has honest conversations. You can see right through him, right? It's like there's no facade. It doesn't seem like anyway, unless he's like the greatest con artist of all time, which I'm pretty confident he's not. So,
That will be a shocker.
which some people believe he is. Some people
Yeah.
believe he is, but I don't see it personally. That so you think about that. What does that do? That's going to aggregate a certain type of individual that wants to be very hopeful about the future. And I think people that are very hopeful about the future ultimately are really kind-hearted people. They have a very pure soul. Sometimes too naive, honestly. Like I'm sometimes too naive when it comes to thinking about the future and the good that can happen, right? And sometimes when I realize I'm being too naive, I get too angry. I get too upset because I'm like, how is this even possible? Like I feel like I'm going into this with very good intentions and I'm just getting railroaded constantly. He's like, how can you think this of me? But anyway, that's set that aside. The thing that always stands out to me is just how nice and kind the people are in this community. And that's why these events exist. It's because even through this crazy time that we're going through now, with all the crazy politics, with Elon going on his political arc, with the stuff that's happening in the US, with the freaking violence at Tesla showrooms, right, in the United States, which are like blows my mind that they're not being disavowed by the other side of the political spectrum. But whatever, I'll set that aside. even through all this hardship and even through all these periods of adversity, okay, there's still a group of people that are willing to support what this American company is doing. And that's the thing that blows my mind. In America, because of how polarized our politics is, and because of the decisions that Elon has made from a rhetoric perspective, no, to a fault of his own as well. This is part of the reason why we're here, to be completely honest. For some reason, this Tesla story, this incredibly American car, American factories, American workforce, freaking American supply chain. It's like it's like such an encapsulation of the American spirit in so many different ways. For some reason, it's not viewed as an entirely positive story, right? So okay, so that's just the period we're in. We'll exit it at some point. I'm a firm believer that this is a short-term, medium-term thing. But the core thing that holds through that whole thing is that there's a core group of people that truly love the company, that truly love the mission, that want a better future, and they're all been magnetized towards the story. And that's what it is. And they're all so freaking smart. They're all so freaking intelligent, and they're very on the ball with where this world is heading. Tesla still, with its size and the amount of attention it gets, it is so much at the forefront of what is going to happen to this world from a technology perspective, from a transportation perspective, from an AI perspective. It is a front runner of technology. It's a front runner of culture now, in a way, if you really think about it. When freaking Trump ran a sales ad on the White House lawn, I don't know if you saw the Daily Show did a cute little skit. It was actually pretty funny. It was really, really funny. It's such a crazy story. So I think what's going to happen here in the coming years, man, I think the community is only going to get larger. I think as more and more people realize just how special the story is, and as they meet more and more members of the community, my hope is that with what Elon's doing with his politics is going to bring in more people that would have never in a million years pictured themselves supporting a company like Tesla. And then we're all going to realize is like, holy shit, it doesn't really matter what our background is, right? If we're inspired by the future, we all look different. It just comes down to our souls and like how we view the future, right? Like it comes down to what's in here and what's in here. It's not how we look. And that's one of my hopes, is that I think in due time, I think people will realize that Tesla is incredibly special, and the people that follow it closely and the community that's around it, it's incredibly special. Like these things don't happen very often, like the Apple fanboys, right? That with Steve Jobs, they were all so inspired about what Apple did. I think Tesla is very similar to that, but like to a different level, in my opinion. I think it's more about like moving the entire world to a sustainable future, and that's real now, Will. Like that, how exciting is that? That is actually real. It's legitimately, you can have a country that can use any power source it wants to power transportation. It's insane. It's amazing.
That's been my sort of accidental journey into American politics, though, because I had no intention of following things so closely, what's happening over there. But the shift from, obviously originally Teslas were appealing to, wealthy enough folks that were, let's say, environmentalists or, that sort of side of things to start with.
Which was almost a complete overlap, by the way. Like that's what's interesting about the U.S. politics, is like people who were climate conscious almost always were wealthy. Or like, let me say the other way. Really wealthy people in the United States very often were health conscious, or climate conscious, rather.
Climate conscious. But then now that's sort of shifted the other way, hasn't it? It's basically now appealing because the cars, they just tick so many boxes. It's the obvious choice for a car, whether it's electric or not. If you're obviously paying attention to it, So the shift has gone from sort of the green side to just like opened up a massive central pool of anyone who's just interested in buying the car that offers the most value. And I suppose if you want to say more sort of Republicans and Trump supporters, but I'm just going to sort of mention this briefly, because I've obviously done quite a few sort of political videos on my channel, because I feel like I just got to bursting point. I had to say something about what I'm seeing. Maybe it's because I just don't want to deal with the own political issues in my own country. I'll just follow yours because it's far safer if I talk about your country than it is mine.
You're welcome.
Let me leave that there. Yeah, thanks. And it's just entertaining. I mean, it's just fun. But what wasn't fun, was watching, paying such close attention to Tesla, and then watching Biden just snub Tesla and on the lawn of the White House and not invite him to the EV summit. and then attack SpaceX as well, and have these claims of legally looking into SpaceX, why they're not hiring was it refugees? I can't remember exactly what it was, but then they weren't
Yeah, it
allowed to
was
by law.
asylum seekers. Yeah.
Asylum seekers, and then they also weren't allowed because it's like a weapons technology, so they were being investigated by their
Yes.
own country. Elon has
Yeah.
been just under attack for so long, and
Corruption.
it's impossible not to see it if you're paying attention to Tesla and the story. And therefore, just paying attention to Tesla made me realize that, well, what else are we all being lied about? And it just opens up this massive can of worms of corruption and
Oh yeah.
lies from the mainstream media and from governments, and there's just no ignoring it. So when I finally see Elon, sort of linking up to Trump, and then Trump surrounding himself with these like Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I've been following her closely for years, listening to her on Joe Rogan's podcast for years. What an amazing patriot that she's dedicated her life, serve for her country, and then she was slung under the bus by the Democrats and been smeared as a Russian spy just because she just dismantled Kamala Harris in those interviews. It's just, when you see it with open eyes, it's just astonishing why the Democrats didn't get behind Elon and supported him. Did they? I guess they just didn't know this was all going to unravel like this, and Elon was going to eventually have to side with Trump. What choice did he have apart from get on the side of the person who's going to actively allow change to happen in America and just get rid of this ridiculous nonsense, which the Democrats were just ignoring? The whole American politics situation has just been so weird to watch. But I can't help but be optimistic.
I have a interesting take about that. I think I'm in the same boat, at the same exact boat as you are. I think following the Tesla story has been a huge red pill, white pill, black pill, whatever you want to call it. It's been like a very eye-opening thing of how the politics and the media landscape in the United States works. It's very much not as honest as you think it is. Actually, it's nowhere near honest. It is bloody, it is nasty, and it's filled with lies constantly, right? So I think my perception of the Democrats' fumble with Elon, the Democrats in the United States are way too reliant on what they think the right data is to go after. And they have a coalition of people that are very highly educated. They go to college. If you look at like the Democrat base in the United States, it's their strongest coalition, the strongest base is college educated people, especially masters, PhDs, almost universally Democrat. Okay. What has happened, I believe, is that you have too many people that think they are very smart. I'm sure they're smart, but they think they're very, very smart. And they are trying to overcomplicate a solution to the United States through the form of politics. Okay. And I think what the Elon miscalculation, especially with Biden, was very, very simple. Biden is a union guy, meaning that, most of his support, a lot of his core support comes from unions like the UAW and all that stuff in the United States. And Tesla's not union. So what does that mean? When the union lobby is making you president, you automatically have to be against non-union, because if you're non-union, you're not for the worker. So you can't see yourself publicly being pro Tesla, because that's going to piss off your union money back, basically, right? But Biden, because he was uniquely dumb in a lot of different ways, he took it too far. He took it too far, and he said, okay, well, I'm really going to show how pro-union I am. I'm going to give all the credit to the union workforce, right? Miscalculating. The miscalculation was, you dummy. You have the greatest entrepreneur living today, building an American company, regardless of the workforce. Why would you just push him away? That is absolutely insane, right? So it was a complete and total miscalculation. And then what ended up happening as the years went along, again, the Democrats, they overly rely on cherry picking data that they think is a trend, right? And what's the trend? So in the United States, there is this class disparity. We've had this sort of separation of the wealth gap. It's gotten more intense. You have the rich are getting richer, and the non-rich are not really making much of a move, which is a giant problem in the United States we have to figure out how to fix. But what does the Democrats say? The Democrats say, as soon as you're a wealthy person, you're evil. Billionaire bad. Billionaire bad. So Elon had two giant targets on his back from one side of the political spectrum. Non-union, right? Billionaire. And then, so when you do that, you're automatically pissing off and you're sidelining and actively detracting your greatest asset.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, like him or hate him, is the United States' greatest asset. Okay. So what do you think he's going to do, right? When you are coming after him the way you are? He doesn't lie down. He's gonna fight back, right? And so, but the thing that they miscalculate is when Elon fights back, you're gonna get a type of person that will never try to stop to win. And that's SpaceX doesn't become successful unless Elon does that. Tesla doesn't become successful without him doing that. You have a fighter that does not quit. So and that's where we are today. That's what happened, right? Elon got behind Trump. He defeated the Democrats. The Democrats have never. A poll just came out a couple of days ago. The Democrats have 29% or 27% favorability. This is an all-time low in the history of the poll. The Democrats have never been less popular. Okay.
To any thinking person who is just paying attention to the State of the Union address, how can you watch that whole event and realize that the Democrats didn't stand up or clap for anything when they're parading out victims of violence and hate or whatever has happened to those poor people?
They've become completely disconnected from the people. They are in their own echo chamber.
Is there not a massive sort of vacation from the Democrat Party then? Because they're really showing themselves to be the party of division and hate. And I just don't see anyone course correcting. Is anyone saying enough of this? We need to get our act together or not?
That's such a good question, Will. I mean, I think, what's interesting, I've been trying to watch a lot of content from that part of the political spectrum. So actually, a very interesting voice to follow on the left side of the political spectrum in the US is Ezra Klein. He has a podcast with the New York Times. But he does good work. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of his sort of conclusions, but you can tell he's an honest guy. He's trying his best to figure out what's going on. But they keep falling into this trap. What's the trap? They're trying to rationalize what has happened by trying to go through all this polling data. Like, okay, so what happened to the black vote? What happened to the Asian vote? What happened to the to the Latin vote? Like, oh my God, like what's going on here? They're trying to view it through this weird lens of race. They're constantly trying to view everything through race. When all they have to realize is that the reason why they've lost is because they have nobody that's real. They don't have one politician that you can look at and be like, okay, he's not an actor. He's not saying something that clearly he got a piece of paper from somebody or somebody signed him a check. And this is why they're saying that. Because the second they get pushback, they turn into this loop. It's like in computers, when you write a piece of code, you have if condition A, then answer B. And that's what all these politicians are on the left side of the spectrum. They don't have anybody who's a real person. Trump, like him or hate him, what you see is literally what you get. He is real. And when people see real, they trust real way more than they trust an actor. That's the Democrats' problem. They don't have a real person that's leading the party. That person does not exist.
No, well, two things to mention just to highlight the obviousness of that. Sharp as a tack.
Yeah, sharp as a tack.
I mean, I'm sorry, who are you trying to tell that this man is sharp as a tack? It's ridiculous. He falls off his bike, he falls down the stairs, he can barely talk. And then you parade out Kamala Harris, and she could barely talk either. And she wouldn't even go on Joe Rogan's show for more than, 40 minutes was her demand? Because she can't speak freely. And when she does speak freely, it's gibberish. I make more sense than she does. How on earth was she the best candidate for the job of running for America? It's just,
and I bet you will. She can speak freely, but this problem with the Democrat Party is that they think they have to be polished, and they can't be vulnerable. They can't show themselves for who they are. And the worst interpretation of that is like, okay, so maybe you have something to hide. Maybe you don't have that much substance behind you. I don't think so. Like, I think what it is, like, the Democrat Party has trapped itself into a quasi-intellectual hole because they have so many people that went to college that think they are very smart, but in reality, they've just been programmed to regurgitate garbage. They have all this garbage data that they're trying to make sense of. You're looking at the wrong thing. You just need somebody who's real. You just need you need a John Fetterman. You need a Josh Shapiro, kind of, even an AOC kind of person like that. You just need somebody that when people see, they're like, okay, that's a real person that's actually talking to me, right? They don't,
Yeah.
and any time they've had that, like Bernie, as an example, Bernie is a perfect example. I don't agree with 90% of his policies, but you can tell that the guy's real. You can tell that
Yeah.
he's actually trying to make the country better. Okay. But what did the party actively do? They sidelined him twice, two times. And Bernie's
Mm.
dumbass keeps going back to that party. Like, what do you do? It's so crack. I just can't believe it, man. It's like
Yeah,
blows my
it
mind.
is.
It blows my
Yeah,
mind.
but I need to caveat all this with, obviously I know I'm an idiot, so whatever I say, it's just my opinion. Doesn't matter, you're free to just share
Everyone's an
opinions on
idiot.
it.
You don't even have to say it. Everyone's an idiot. We're all
Oh yeah,
idiots.
true, true, true. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, well let's
Yeah.
talk on Doge while we're there as well then, because I've spoken to many people
Yeah.
who would love nothing more than for to see a Doge system sweep across all government bodies, businesses, schools, the
Yeah.
NHS here in England. Why wouldn't people want to see transparency in spending and be more effective and efficient with their budgets? So, with Doge's transparent findings, which Elon recently suggests was about 80% legit waste, just on subscriptions and things like that, and 20% fraud. Why aren't Americans rallying behind slashing fraud, saving taxpayer cash, and tackling that $37 trillion deficit?
So two parts. Number one is anytime Trump or Elon said something in the United States, the other side of the political spectrum has been programmed through their own faults to be like automatic bad. You can't agree with anything good that Trump and Elon do if you're a Democrat. You just can't, because
Yeah.
that's how the party has been programmed for the last 9 years.
That's exactly what we saw in the State of the Union address.
Oh yeah,
Exactly what you just said.
100%.
Yeah.
You got it. Exactly. Like you saw people sitting down for things that universally every person, doesn't matter how black their heart is, they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, yay,
Yeah.
13-year-old Secret Service guy.
Not
Awesome.
sat there like
You know?
this, which they were doing.
Yeah.
I
It's
couldn't
unbelievable.
believe it.
Completely unbelievable, just truly shocking imagery, and you're 100% right. So I think so that's number one. So the reason why it's so partisan is because one side of the political spectrum, they cannot admit that this is a good thing. Because here's the deal, like, even if they say, of course we want fraud, waste, and abuse, but we just don't like the person doing it. And it's like, okay, great, you should have ran on that platform with Kamala, and guess what, you didn't. Okay, so you're trying to twist something into something that is not real. So that's number one. And then number two, Elon has done himself no favors. That instead of trying to reach out, here's the thing. In my opinion, this is just not how Elon's wired. Elon just fights you until he defeats you 1,000 times over. But if he had just a little bit of grace, and I understand why he doesn't. Okay, I get why he doesn't have the grace, because he's been attacked to no end for no reason. I get it. But at some point, if you offer a little bit of grace, and this is why I said go on Jon Stewart, go on Jon Stewart's show, talk for 2 hours. You might disagree with everything he says. You might think he's a propagandist, whatever. I'm telling you, Jon Stewart, his body of work speaks for itself. Okay, when he went and fought for those New York firefighters to get them the healthcare they deserve, those 9/11 firefighters that were, for some reason, they were not getting justice as far as their care. Okay, he went out of his way to ensure that they got justice. Okay, a person that doesn't have that has low morals doesn't do that. He had to stake his reputation on the line, and he had to work really tirelessly to make that happen, and he made it happen. Okay, so he's a good person. There's a lot of data that says he's a good person. Go out of your way slightly, as much as you want, but at least do something to try and cater to the other side. Make it less partisan. Make it something that people can see the benefits of. Now, I think the way he's going about it, which I think will work anyway, is that his thing is going to be, I'm going to show results. I am going to show results. So what's going to happen in the next year or two, when the debt and the deficit are actually being impacted in a significant positive manner, then he's just going to be like, scoreboard, you hate me? Well, check this out. Scoreboard.
Yeah.
Scoreboard. What happened to the deficit?
Yeah.
What happened to the debt? I'm sorry you don't like me. Go, excuse my French, go fuck yourself. Look at the country. It's doing better, right? I think that's going to be his approach, because he's gotten so used to being attacked. I mean, the guy is so clearly comfortable in being in the line of sight. He doesn't care, or if he does care, he hides it really well. Okay,
He certainly does.
And I
Yeah,
think
but
if you look at his arc, I mean, it's like with SpaceX, he had to fight through a lot of adversity. With Tesla, he had to fight through a lot of adversity. With Doge, he's going to fight through a lot of adversity. Now, government is a much more public-facing thing than private sector, right? The private sector is.
how can they improve what they're doing with Doge to make it even more transparent to what they're doing? I mean, when he mentioned like
Create awareness.
if you make,
Create
well, yeah,
awareness with the people that
I
hate you.
guess so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose. But even when Elon has got spectacular results of landing rockets, anything he's ever done, it's never seemed to have got to the point where people are like, you know what, this guy's actually onto something here. It's like
That's because the people that when the people think of Elon Musk, they don't think of landing rockets. They think of evil billionaire. You have to this is we're media now, Will. Like this is what happens. Like this is something that I realized is that you can shape a narrative very easily with media. And if you have a repeat audience that comes back to you that is looking for a certain thing, you can reprogram that brain to think that specific way, right?
Yeah.
Especially if that person doesn't go out of their way to have competing sources of material, right? That's what's happened is when people think of Elon, they don't think reusable rocket guy, a profitable EV guy, a brain in chip guy, Starship guy. They don't think of this. They think of evil billionaire that's trying to take my social security.
It's just such stupid tribalism. I feel like we all just should be over this by now as a species. Do you know what I mean? We should have been. I know it's just depressing, but I mean, I guess there's the wonderful link to the idiots that are claiming Elon's a Nazi, as if to me, I don't know, it really hurts my soul to hear people using that word to describe someone who's done nothing but trying to improve the situation for humanity. And to me, it stinks of zero critical thinking. And I don't know, it sort of spits in the faces of everyone who's ever died at the hands of genocidal Nazis. To me, I'm just 100%. Like, and I've got these idiots in London sticking up posters, with a GoFundMe campaign. They are literally say on their page, we've been stickering Nazi stickers on people's cars. I'm like, you're actively vandalizing innocent people's cars because your message is this guy's Hitler. It's like the word racism. It's just all these words just get watered down to mean absolutely nothing. So
100%.
What does a real Nazi look like now if Elon's a Nazi? I mean, it's just pathetic.
I agree. I
don't know how it ends.
Honestly, like I think we've reached peak hysteria, FYI. Some positive news.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, I sort of felt that as well.
Honestly, I think the reason why is what happened a few days ago. A Jewish person that owns a Cybertruck had a Nazi emblem put on their truck.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. And then the person painting the Nazi emblem on the truck thinks they're in the right. And then the Jewish person in the truck gets to walk up to a truck and they see the Nazi emblem. How, just the imagery of that is unbelievable. Okay, so that to me says, we've reached, that's it. Like, it can't get any more ridiculous than that. Very good. But the other thing to remember, keep in mind too, Will, is you have to think about we're in an information age where there are literally billions of people that now have access to share their thoughts and opinion. Okay. And what's the common thread in the information and really in information in general is that the loudest will always appear like the majority. But in reality, the minority are always the loudest. Okay. And the perfect poll to show this is Sawyer just shared this today. And you can interpret this in two different ways. But there was a poll out of Germany that asked people, I think it was like 50,000, or it was a pretty large poll. It had a very low margin of error. Would you buy a Tesla in Germany? Think about in Germany, okay? 28% said no way. Okay. 70% said yes, no problem. Okay. So even in this insane political landscape that we live in, with a person that in Elon that you could have said, oh, he's doing the Nazi salute. Okay. 70% of the population of the country from which this thing originated from, unfortunately, are like, that's fine. No, it's not that it's fine. It's no problem
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
didn't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's perhaps because they actually understand from history lessons what a Nazi was.
Exactly.
That's the thing
Exactly.
that's missing in
Yeah.
these people's minds. They just don't know
Yeah.
the meaning of the word fascism or Nazi. It's just disturbing
Yeah.
to realize that. But yeah, okay. Well, it was a nice little segue then
It's noise.
onto yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
the key takeaway here to take with all this, even though it feels extremely chaotic, it's all noise.
Mm.
It's noise.
It's
Yeah.
partly realizing though that there's shady, organizations behind this, and there is money exchanging hands in order to do this. I mean, I've seen all
Yeah.
these images of people, being offered work to come and stand outside and protest for $40 an hour. I'm like, what? People are actually being paid, to come and stand
Gotta make
outside and
that,
protest.
gotta get that money.
It's insane. I guess so. Yeah.
Listen, I
I just
don't
love the
blame those
clips.
people, honestly. I don't blame those people
Yeah.
because those people, like, imagine wanting to do it for $40. They're like, yeah, $40. Fuck, that's
Yeah.
a couple meals for the day. Yeah, the organizations do. That's one of the downfalls of capitalism, and one of the shitty things about the sort of society that we live in is that you can create the right incentives to do whatever you want, and sometimes
Yeah.
those incentives are very perverse and grift like. But it is
Yeah.
that's what happens. But again, even through all that noise, again, within the context of the population now, it's still the minority. And this is why I'm so hopeful,
Yeah.
is that I tell you, the silent majority doesn't give a shit. They'll be like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, it's not even a Nazi salute. Sell me something that's going to make my life better. Like, I want a good life. Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, X offers a raw, real-time space for diverse voices to share opinions and news, free from the heavy curation of other platforms and traditional media. How does this openness change how we see things in the real world?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. If you're to believe that the X algorithm does allow for the equal weight of each individual to have their message come across, which I believe it does, because I can't tell you how much anti-Musk content I see on X, which tells me it's like, wow, if Elon really wanted to, move the dials, he could. I personally don't see that at all. I think that's huge. I think that's going to allow a lot of independent voices to really get their message across in ways that we've never had before, which I think is a giant win for society. The thing that a lot of people don't understand, that don't do media, like let's say you and I do, is that you can very easily influence, you can very easily curate what goes on your network or what goes on your newspaper. Like, that's what editors are. That's what these like boards are. They're like trying to craft a message that they want the people to hear. And most things that they share in most publications are crafted around that central message, right? That's how it is in the United States, at least. That's why Fox is mostly right-leaning. I would say significantly right-leaning. CNN is left-leaning. MSNBC is so far left you can't even see them. But here's the optimistic thing about this sort of new age of X. And I was talking to Emily from Undercurrents and Breaking Points here in the United States. She's part of these like political talk shows, and she does such a good job. She feels that this current media landscape, with the independent voices coming through, is actually a huge plus, because humans are inherently biased. All of us are biased. I am obviously biased pro Tesla, and I am biased pro Elon, right? I have biases, but I'm not trying to tell people that I'm anti Elon or I'm anti Tesla. My bias shines through, and it's in my description. If you read my description, you can literally see I used to work at Tesla. I've been an investor forever. I'm pro the content. I even have a freaking referral code to buy a Tesla, for frick's sake, right? It's very obvious that I'm biased for Tesla. What's going to be nice about this day and age now with X is that the biases are going to become clear, but we're still going to allow people to voice their opinion, instead of living in this very curated world of just trust us, we have the truth, right? Or just trust us, we're trying to be balanced. But they were absolutely not being balanced. They were selling a fake product. A lot of these mainstream, and they still are in a lot of respects. They were selling a fake product. People were incapable of seeing that there was a bias, because the entire media infrastructure was centered around like 5 or 6 major players. It was impossible. So it's like, if you wanted one narrative to appear in the mainstream networks, it will just happen, right? One narrative will just shine through. And so I think X has done a lot to shift the culture towards more independent voices. We saw this with podcasting, starting with like your Rogans and your Flagrants and all these different sort of shows that are out there that people watch that are very, very popular. And even though they're not really news shows, they're culture shows, they're information shows. You're trying to learn more about society and what's going on, right? That sort of started this trend. And then X opened the floodgates for equal access to information. You were no longer being curated by your CNNs and your MSNBCs and your Foxes. Now you're getting the raw deal. That's going to empower the individual to have much closer access to the truth. And with a layer of grok on top, and grok's sort of goal to just be maximally truth seeking, if they really do achieve that goal, then you've just made it very easy for any human to understand what is actually going on. And
Yeah.
that in itself is so valuable because there's so many decisions you can make based on that knowledge, So it's great. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic thing.
Well, it's a lovely pairing, isn't it? Having Grok there to ask questions to, but you're also just looking at raw footage. You're looking at real life on X of people actually in a crowd or somewhere or other taking the video themselves, and you can see what's going on, and it's in real time. It's not being curated, is it? You've got no misinformation there. You're just seeing the raw data, if you like, I suppose.
You got it.
And I think paired with Grok, I think it's a brilliant step forward. I think the purchase of X is going to go down, eventually as a massive pivotal moment for increasing awareness for what's really going on in the world. Yeah, definitely.
It's already changed the culture significantly. It really has. So Western culture has been changed forever because of that acquisition. And I think from the very beginning, actually made a video about this, right as Elon was purchasing Twitter. At the time, I was like, this is probably an AI play because Twitter had access to real-time data that very few other platforms do. And Elon, being as forward-thinking as he is, he saw, like, okay, so if I'm going to keep building out compute, my differentiator, as compute gets commoditized, my differentiator is going to be data, not compute. And so I need a place where I can get new data constantly to train the thing. Wow, Twitter looks like a good idea, right? What he came to realize was like, holy shit, Twitter is actually kind of a propaganda tool for one side of the political spectrum. And so he had to free it up so that the truth, like the actual raw data from humanity was coming through, so he could train an AI to be as understanding of humanity as a whole, right, than what old Twitter would have been, which was very, very left-leaning. So I think it's become very obvious that that's ultimately why he purchased Twitter. And I think the other side of it is everybody who's got the Twitter or X app on their phone will also have a wallet. And so financial services become an obvious thing to do as well. So this is brilliant. It's just a brilliant, again, 44 billion, people laughed it off. And once again, it's going to be proven right.
Yeah, exactly. And if you just look at the evidence of what happened with Twitter and the staff and the actual turnaround there, is it profitable again now? But whatever it is, it's functioning extremely well. It's better than it's ever been. Yeah,
it is profitable.
Okay, cool. And then you've still got people that are doubting whether Elon can do this, to the government. It's like, I don't know how you doubt this man at this point. Is Elon a genius, or is his trail of building the impossible purely accidental?
It's all simulation, Will. It doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, yes, we could go down that rabbit hole. I'd be happy to. I love talking about stuff like that. Here's another question for you that's I guess it's been crossing my mind for a while now, but even if Elon stepped down as CEO at this point, what exactly changes for Tesla if he did?
I think if he steps down now, I think the rollout of the bot will be significantly slower than it otherwise could have been. I do think it has a material impact on the bot. I think robotaxi in the car is done, meaning that if Elon is involved or not, I think the momentum and the systems that have been built to continue that side of the business forward are a self-fulfilling prophecy. The flywheel is way too strong. The forcing functions is way too strong. Maybe they don't get to 20 million Cybercabs as fast as they would have with Elon, but I think they win regardless. Their product is too good, and the software stack is too good. I think the bot would have a significant risk of being brought to completion at an Elon speed or at a Tesla speed, because it's still a nascent technology. You still have to go through 3 different revisions of the technology before it can be used in a home. Realistically speaking, we're not going to get a human or robot in the home until 2030, 2032. These are going to be factory use cases. And so maybe that human or robot in the home gets pushed up to 2035 if Elon is no longer heading the company. That's kind of what I'm thinking is I think Elon's natural arc at Tesla will probably come to a close in 2030. If I were to make a crazy prediction on this show, first time, Or check this out,
Okay.
exclusive. I think,
Hang on a minute. I remember something about
yeah,
a joystick. That was a
yeah, yeah.
prediction.
Let's forget about the joystick.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
this one's gonna be wrong too. I could see a world where Elon steps away as CEO of Tesla by 2030, and then he stays on the board. He still has majority share. He'll probably get involved from an engineering perspective, like much more closely akin to like a SpaceX type role. But I wouldn't be surprised if the face of the company is different by
Yeah.
then. Kind of like how X has Linda as the CEO,
Hmm.
and Elon's still like obviously the face of X. I think Tesla might get something similar by 2030,
Yeah. Well,
if not sooner.
Gwen Shotwell for SpaceX. I mean,
Exactly.
it wouldn't take anything away from Elon, would it? If he did step down into a role where he's still, really hands on.
It'd make
I
him more
just think,
capable.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think so. I think he would end up being more capable. I think if I were to read the Tesla situation, I think Elon is having a tough time letting go of the control of Tesla because I think there are still some fundamental things that he thinks he needs to be involved in because the car business is such a insanely difficult thing to be in, right? But I
Hmm.
think once the SaaS-like margins come in, meaning like software revenue comes in on the
Oh yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
and it's an obvious recurring theme that it does like it's no longer a metal business, it's a software business. I think at
Hmm.
that point it's going to be like, okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what happens to the car business, like we're fine. And
Yeah.
the bot's going to take care of itself. The flywheel's made. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Mars.
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
think I,
yeah.
I think that time's coming in the next five
Yeah,
to ten years.
yeah, cool. I think you
Yeah,
just made me realize I've totally forgotten that subject of software as a service, but for the interest of time, I'll leave that for now. So,
we'll leave that for the next
I'm,
time.
yeah, I'm trying to get to the end because I realize that I've taken up an awful lot of your time today. But I do want
No
to talk
problem.
to you about you just for a minute. So,
Sure.
prepare to feel a bit awkward, but you've just been awesome. I mean, you first burst onto the scene, and you shared your vulnerability. I think you constantly questioned yourself. You've been playing with ideas, ever since you started, which I love. I think it's really refreshing to not hear someone be so cocky and cocksure about themselves. And I find you're very Joe Rogan-esque. You just putting on ideas, you try them, and you get on with it. I think it's really appealing, and your encouragement to me when I first started, when I just shared one of my early terrible videos, and you were just very encouraging and kind, and I've reached out to you a few times at my low points, and you've been great, and you've stopped me from quitting in despair a good handful of times. So I'd love you to share your struggle and sort of perseverance as a content creator, and how it's helped you personally develop and grow.
Yeah. No, those are very kind words, Will. Thank you very much. That's really kind of you to say. I mean, I think we were speaking briefly before we went live, sort of like sharing your story, and I connect with so much of it. I mean, I think the lessons I've learned from content creation were probably the biggest surprise. And the lessons being comfortable putting yourself out there, handling adversity, being comfortable with dissenting views of who you are as a person, being comfortable with just outright lies being spread about you, and those lies being spread as a way for a party to fund their media channel. Okay,
Mm.
respect, like free speech, go for it. I can't stop anybody from doing that. So it's taught me a lot of different lessons. I think one of my biggest struggles has been imposter syndrome that I've lived
Mm.
with for a really long time, is that I just never
Yeah.
felt like I was good enough to do what I do. And then, yeah, somebody's coming into the meeting room here, by the way. But I think
Sure.
for me, I'm going to walk. We're going to do a little walking theme here.
It's fine.
I think for me, it's just trying my hardest to do the best possible job I can is ultimately what I try to do on a daily basis. Sorry. To do the best work I can, to not worry too much about what other people think of me. Make sure you love what you're doing. Make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that if you want to survive adversity, you have to love what you do. Because if you don't love what you do, the inevitable hard parts of the journey become very difficult to navigate, because those hard parts is what make people quit, right? Nothing is easy in this world that's worth doing. Nothing.
No, no, that's it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing, right? And so the only way to survive the hard parts is by having a deep connection to what you're doing. And what I find is that oftentimes when people quit is that they never really knew why they were doing the thing they were doing. But if you connect deeply with it, there's no way you'll lose. There's no
Yeah.
way. You just have to find that connection. And that's kind of what's helped me through this content creation journey. Is like I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is. Like they think it's like, well, I can get in front of a camera. Andrew Schultz talks
Yeah.
about this a lot in his latest sort of like media run for his special. He's a
Mm.
comedian, commentator. I actually respect him a lot. I think he has a lot of great insights. But he talks about this as like people don't really understand how difficult it is to be a content creator, like to get yourself in front of like people and get yourself in front of the camera and get people to really see you for who you are. They think it's like you just turn on a camera and you go, right? You just go and I can do that. I can put a camera in front of me. Anybody can do that. Anybody has an iPhone, right? But try doing that 10 times in a row. Try doing that 20 times in a row. Try doing that while all you read is that you're bad. Try doing that while people say you are an evil person for talking about the thing you're doing. It creates a lot of doubt. But ultimately, if you understand to the core why you're doing what you're doing, the only thing you have to do is keep going. And if you keep going, you win.
Well, that philosophy is perhaps true for the 125,000 employees of Tesla. They've got a mission.
I think so.
They know why they're there, no matter what the hell is going on with the rest of the world. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, final question then. What's it like living in the heart of it all in Austin, Texas? I mean, do you get to many Tesla events? Do you go to the mothership? Do you regularly get attacked by tigers? Because I hear you have more tigers there than there are in the wild.
We do, which is such an insane thing to think about. Austin or Texas, rather. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I love the city. We moved here in 2020, actually, in the heart of the pandemic, because of how much freedom and just access to stuff there was here in Texas. There were still precautions being taken for the pandemic, but you could tell like they were doing it the right way. So that was a really cool thing to see. We do go to the mothership. We've been there, I think, 3 or 4 times. It's been awesome,
sweet.
sort of watching that whole thing grow. The vibe here is great. The people are super nice. The food is good. The barbecue is amazing. The weather is great for most of the year. Summers are hot as hell out here, but I'll take that over the snow that I got in PA in Pennsylvania. So yeah, it's a beautiful place. I highly recommend. You should come visit sometime, Will. If you come to town, we'll show you around, show you a good time.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Yes, sir. Highly recommend it. Capital of the world.
Yeah.
Truly.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, look, I can't thank you enough for being there and chatting to me today. But just one more thing before you go. I need to write something down on my description. How do you spell Farzad again? Can you just spell it?
It's SAFZAR.
Right, I've got it. Is that right?
Yes, that's you had it. Nailed it.
All right. Dear viewers, we're going to carry on this conversation over on my Patreon page, where I'll be asking a few of my Patreon questions to Farzad. So come on over to patreon.com/Tesla Jigsaw and help this little channel grow, and I'll give you some extra benefits like more Farzad. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. So yeah, do check out Farzad's amazing work at Farzad Media on X and YouTube. I'm Will. This is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you, patrons. Thanks for watching. And why not just check out one of these videos next? I've got a couple all lined up for you. In fact, I don't know what they are, so I'm random, but go ahead, make my day. Thanks. Bye.